English Daily, the podcast.
Your English journey starts now. Hey, English learners, welcome back to your podcast, the English Daily Podcast.
Yes, we're so happy to have you here today. This is Jack, by the way.
And I'm Anna, happy to be here with you all as always.
Today's episode is all about something really important for the modern workplace, Anna. Have you noticed how everyone seems to be talking about data these days?
Oh, absolutely, Jack. It's everywhere. Data this, data that. But here's the thing. Not everyone is a data scientist, right? Most of us are managers, marketers, HR professionals, or business owners who need to understand data without having a computer science degree.
That's exactly right. And that's why today's topic is so valuable. We're going to teach you how to discuss data literacy without being a data scientist. We're talking about simple English phrases for explaining analytics in plain language for non-tech audiences.
Yes, so whether you're in a meeting with your analytics team, reading a business report, or explaining insights to your clients, you'll learn the key phrases and concepts, and we'll focus especially on how to explain predictive analytics in plain English for non-tech audiences.
This is going to be super practical, I promise. Let's dive right in. So, Anna, before we get into the vocabulary, let's start with the basics. What exactly does data literacy mean? Because I feel like people throw this term around all the time, but it's not always clear what they mean.
That's such a good question, Jack. You know what? I think data literacy is kind of like being able to read and write, but instead of books, you're reading and writing with numbers and information. It's the ability to read data, understand it, work with it, and communicate about it.
Oh, that's a really good analogy. So it's like literacy for the modern world. But here's what confuses me. Do I need to know how to code? Do I need to know Python or SQL or something like that?
Oh, absolutely not. That's the beauty of data literacy. You don't need to be a programmer at all. It's more about understanding what the data is telling you and being able to explain it to others. Think of it as a communication skill, not a technical skill.
So it's really about the vocabulary and the concepts, like knowing what words like trend or correlation mean.
Exactly. You've got it. It's about having the vocabulary to ask the right questions, the knowledge to understand the answers, and the ability to translate technical findings into plain English that everyone can understand.
That makes so much sense. And I think that's why this episode is so important for our listeners. Because in today's workplace, whether you're a manager or an individual contributor, you're going to encounter data. It's unavoidable.
Definitely. And the good news is that data literacy is a skill you can learn. It's not some mysterious talent that only certain people have. With a little practice and the right vocabulary, anyone can become data literate.
So think of us today as your data literacy trainers. We're going to give you all the tools you need to feel confident in any data conversation.
I love that. Let's do it.
Now let's get into the really interesting stuff. One of the most popular terms in business today is predictive analytics. And honestly, Anna, when I first heard this term, I thought it sounded so complicated and technical, but it's actually not that hard to understand, right?
It's really not, Jack. Predictive analytics is actually a pretty simple concept when you break it down. It basically means using past data to make predictions about the future. That's it. That's the whole idea.
Wait, that's it? So it's just like looking at what happened before and guessing what might happen next?
Well, guessing makes it sound a bit random, but yes, you're on the right track. It's more sophisticated than guessing, of course. It uses statistical methods and algorithms to find patterns in historical data, and then uses those patterns to forecast what might happen next.
Oh, I see. So you're using the past to prepare for the future. Like, oh, winter is coming. Let's make sure we have enough hot chocolate supplies.
Exactly. That's a perfect example. And that's really all predictive analytics is, finding patterns in what happened before and using them to make educated guesses about what will happen next.
You know what? That reminds me of something that happened at my previous job. We had this sales team, and they were always complaining that they never knew how many leads they should expect each month. It was so unpredictable for them.
Oh, wow, what happened then?
Well, our data analyst built this simple predictive model, and basically it looked at things like how many leads came in during the same month last year, how our marketing spend had changed, and even things like whether there were holidays coming up. And then it would give us a prediction for how many leads to expect.
That's brilliant. And I'll bet the sales team loved having that information.
They did. It totally changed their planning. Instead of being surprised every month, they could actually prepare. They knew, okay, March is usually slow, but May picks up, so let's budget accordingly.
See, that's the power of predictive analytics in simple terms. It helps businesses make better decisions by using data instead of just guessing. And the best part is that you don't need to be the one building the model. You just need to understand enough to ask the right questions and interpret the results.
And that's exactly what we're teaching you today. So if any of your colleagues start talking about predictive models or forecasting, now you'll know exactly what they mean. Okay, Anna, let's talk about another really important concept that comes up all the time in data discussions. I've heard the terms correlation and causation thrown around, but I have to be honest, I'm not always sure I understand the difference.
Oh, this is such an important distinction, Jack. And honestly, it's one of the most common mistakes people make when talking about data. Let me explain it in simple terms.
Please do. I'm all ears.
Okay, so correlation means that two things happen at the same time or change together. They seem related, but that doesn't mean one causes the other. Let me give you an example. Have you ever heard the classic one about ice cream sales and drowning deaths?
I think I've heard something about that. Tell me more.
Okay, so here's the thing. When ice cream sales go up, more people also drown. That's a correlation. They happen together. But does eating ice cream cause drowning? Of course not. What's really happening is that both increase during the summer. Hot weather causes both more ice cream sales and more people swimming, which leads to more drowning accidents.
Oh, wow. So the relationship is not between ice cream and drowning. It's both caused by something else entirely. Hot weather.
Exactly. You've got it. That's correlation. Two things move together, but one doesn't cause the other. Now, causation is different. Causation means that one thing actually causes another thing to happen.
So if I smoke cigarettes and I get lung cancer, that's causation? Smoking actually causes the cancer?
That's a good example, yes. We know from research that smoking causes lung cancer. That's been proven. But here's the tricky part. In business and in life, it can be really hard to prove causation. That's why you see so many articles saying, study finds a link between X and Y, instead of X causes Y.
Why is that? Why can't they just say it causes it?
Because proving causation is really difficult. You need controlled experiments, you need to rule out all other possible factors, and even then, it's tricky. Most of the time in business, what we have is correlation. We see patterns together, but we can't definitively say one causes the other.
That makes so much sense. And I think that's why it's so important to be careful with data. You can look at two things that seem related and think, oh, this causes that, but actually they might just be coincidental or both caused by something else.
Exactly, and that's a key part of data literacy, being able to ask the right questions. When someone shows you data that seems to show a relationship, you can ask, is this correlation or causation? What other factors might be at play? That shows real data literacy.
That's such great advice. I love that. So always be a little bit skeptical and ask questions. That's the mark of someone who really understands data. You know, Anna, I think one of the biggest barriers to data literacy is all this technical jargon. You know, words like algorithm, machine learning, model, data set. It can be really intimidating for non-technical people.
Oh, absolutely. That's such a good point. And I think that's exactly what many people struggle with. They hear their data team using these fancy terms, and they feel too embarrassed to ask what they mean. They just nod along and pretend they understand.
I've totally done that before. Actually, I remember a meeting once where someone said, "We need to run this through our machine learning algorithm." And everyone just nodded like it was the most normal thing in the world, and I had no idea what they meant.
Oh, I can totally picture that. And here's the thing. Everyone in that room probably had a similar experience, but no one wanted to be the one to ask. That's why today's episode is so important. We're going to demystify these terms.
Yes, let's do it. Okay, so let's start with algorithm. What does that actually mean?
Okay, so algorithm sounds really fancy and complicated, but it's actually quite simple. An algorithm is just a set of rules or instructions that you follow to solve a problem or complete a task. It's like a recipe, really. You have step 1, step 2, step 3, and if you follow them in order, you get a result.
Wait, that's it? An algorithm is just a recipe?
Kind of. When you think about it that way, it's not so scary, right? Now, in data science, an algorithm is used to find patterns in data or to make predictions, but the basic idea is the same. It's a process with specific steps.
Okay, that makes sense. What about model? People are always talking about building a model, or the model predicts this.
A model is kind of like a simplified representation of something. Think about a model car or a model airplane. It's a smaller, simpler version of the real thing that helps you understand it better. In data science, a model is a mathematical representation of a business process or phenomenon. It takes input, like your data, and gives you output, like predictions or insights.
Oh, so it's like a mini version of reality that helps you understand and predict things. That makes so much sense.
Exactly. And then there's machine learning. This one sounds super technical, but it's actually not that complicated either. Machine learning is basically when computers learn from data without being explicitly programmed for every single step. It's like teaching a child. You don't tell them every single thing they need to know. You show them examples, and they figure out patterns on their own.
So it's like the computer is learning from experience, just like humans do.
That's a great way to think about it. You feed the computer lots of examples, it finds patterns, and then it can apply what it's learned to new situations. That's machine learning in a nutshell.
See, that wasn't so scary, was it? These terms are actually pretty simple when you break them down, and now our listeners can feel confident when they hear these words in meetings.
Absolutely. The key is not to be intimidated. And always remember, if you don't understand something, it's okay to ask. That's actually a sign of data literacy, not the opposite.
Okay, so now we understand the key concepts. But here's where the rubber meets the road, Anna. How do we actually take all this and apply it in real life? Like, what happens when you need to explain data findings to your boss or your clients who aren't technical?
Oh, this is where so many people struggle. You've done all the analysis, you've found these amazing insights, but then you have to communicate them to someone who doesn't speak data language. And if you do it wrong, you lose them completely.
That's so true. I've seen it happen. Someone presents all this technical analysis, and you can just see everyone's eyes glazing over. All that great work goes to waste because the delivery was wrong.
Exactly. So let's talk about some strategies. First, and most important, know your audience. Who are you talking to? What do they care about? What's their level of understanding?
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say you've done an analysis on customer churn. Your CEO wants to know the bottom line. Are we losing customers and why? She's not interested in the technical details of your model. She wants actionable insights.
So you can't just dump all your data on her.
Definitely not. You need to tailor your message. For a CEO, you might say something like, we're losing about 5% of our customers per month, and the main reason seems to be that our delivery times have gotten longer. If we can improve delivery speed, we can probably reduce churn by 2 to 3%. That's clear, concise, and actionable.
Oh, that's so much better. You're giving her the insight, the reason, and even a potential solution, all without getting into the technical weeds.
Yes, and that's the art of data communication. Another tip is to always connect your data to business outcomes. Don't just say, our conversion rate is 3%. Say, our conversion rate is 3%, which means we're missing out on about 200 potential customers per month. If we could improve it to 5%, that would mean an additional $50,000 in revenue.
Wow, that makes such a difference. The first version is just a number. The second version tells a story and shows the business impact.
Exactly. Data without context is just numbers, but when you connect it to real business outcomes, it becomes a story that people can understand and act on.
What about visuals? Because I know a lot of people say you should use charts and graphs.
Visuals are great, but here's the thing. They can also be overwhelming if you use too many. My advice is to use one key chart per slide or per point. Make it simple, label everything clearly, and never ever use a 3D chart. They're actually harder to read than 2D charts.
That's such a good tip. I've definitely seen those 3D pie charts that look cool but are impossible to read.
We all have. The goal is clarity, not flashiness. And one more thing. Always explain what your visualization shows. Don't assume people will just get it. Walk them through it briefly. Say something like, this chart shows our sales trend over the past year. As you can see, we had a dip in July, but we've been growing steadily since August.
That's such great practical advice. I think the whole key here is empathy. Put yourself in the audience's shoes. What would make sense to you if you didn't have a technical background? That's how you communicate data effectively.
Absolutely. And that really is the heart of data literacy, not just understanding the numbers yourself, but being able to help others understand them too.
So, Anna, we've talked about concepts and communication strategies, but let's get practical. What are some specific terms that our listeners should add to their vocabulary? The everyday terms they'll encounter in meetings and reports.
Oh, this is perfect. Let's go through some essential terms. First up, KPI. Have you heard this one?
Oh, definitely. Key performance indicator, right? That's super common.
Yes, KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. It's basically a measurable value that shows how well you're achieving a business objective. For example, your KPI might be customer satisfaction score or monthly revenue growth.
What about metric? People use that term all the time, too.
Good question. A metric is a quantitative measure. It's a number that you track. All KPIs are metrics, but not all metrics are KPIs. You might track hundreds of metrics, but only a few of them are truly key to your business success. Those become your KPIs.
Oh, I see the difference now. KPI is like the most important metrics. What about benchmark?
A benchmark is a standard or point of reference that you compare your performance against. For example, you might benchmark your customer satisfaction against the industry average or against your own performance last year.
And outlier? I've heard that term too.
An outlier is a data point that differs significantly from other observations. It's like an anomaly, something that doesn't fit the normal pattern. Sometimes outliers are errors, and sometimes they're actually the most interesting findings.
Wait, outliers can be interesting?
Oh, absolutely. Sometimes your most valuable insights come from outliers. Like maybe you have one product that's selling way better than everything else, or one customer segment that's behaving very differently. Those outliers can reveal opportunities you might otherwise miss.
What about segmentation? That's another one I hear all the time.
Segmentation is when you divide your data into smaller groups based on shared characteristics. Like you might segment your customers by age, by location, or by purchasing behavior. This helps you understand different groups better and tailor your strategies.
Okay, that makes sense. And sample size. That's more of a technical term, isn't it?
It is a bit more technical, but it's still important to understand. Sample size refers to the number of data points or observations in your study. the bigger your sample size, generally the more reliable your results. It's like if you only ask 5 people their opinion, that's not very representative. But if you ask 1,000 people, you'll get a better picture.
What about confidence level? That sounds really technical.
Confidence level is about how sure you can be about your results. When someone says, we're 95% confident, they're saying that if they ran the same study 100 times, they'd get similar results 95 times. It's a way of showing how reliable your findings are.
That's really useful to know, and I think our listeners will find that helpful too. One more, ROI. Everyone talks about ROI.
Yes, ROI stands for return on investment. It's a measure of the profitability of an investment. You calculate it by dividing the gain from the investment by the cost of the investment. If you spend $100 on marketing and it brings in $300 in sales, your ROI is 200%.
Oh, that's so practical. I love how all these terms have real-world applications. And now our listeners will feel so much more confident when they hear these words in meetings.
That's exactly the goal. These are the building blocks of data literacy. Once you know these terms, you can participate in data conversations with confidence.
Okay, everyone, now it's time for our vocabulary breakdown section. Anna and I are going to go through some key phrases that you can start using right away in your workplace conversations.
Yes, these are phrases that sound professional, but are actually really simple once you know what they mean. Let's dive in.
First up, drill down. Anna, what does this mean?
Drill down means to look at something in more detail. Like if you have a general overview and you want to understand the specifics, you're drilling down. For example, let's drill down into these sales numbers to see which products are performing best.
Great. How about at scale? I've heard that one a lot.
At scale means doing something on a large scale or in a big way. Like, we need to implement the solution at scale means you need to roll it out to your whole organization, not just test it with a small group.
What about pain points? That's such a common business term.
Pain points are the problems or frustrations that customers or users experience. If someone says we need to address the customer's pain points, they mean we need to solve the problems that are frustrating our customers.
And actionable insights. That's another one I hear all the time.
Actionable insights are findings from data that you can actually do something about. Not just interesting information, but something you can take action on. Like, we gained an insight that customers prefer faster delivery. That's actionable.
Oh, I love that. What about low-hanging fruit?
Low-hanging fruit refers to easy wins, things that are simple to achieve and don't require a lot of effort. Like, let's tackle the low-hanging fruit first, means let's do the easy stuff first before we try to solve the harder problems.
What does data-driven mean?
Data-driven means making decisions based on data rather than on intuition or guesswork. When someone says, we're a data-driven company, they mean they use data to inform their decisions.
How about big picture? That's pretty common.
Big picture refers to the overall view or the general overview, as opposed to the details. Like, let's focus on the big picture first, then we can discuss the details later.
What does touch point mean?
Touch point is any point of interaction between a customer and a business. This could be when they visit your website, call your customer service, or receive a product. Understanding touch points helps you improve the customer experience.
And pipeline? That's used a lot in sales.
Pipeline refers to your sales process, all the potential deals or leads that are at different stages. When someone says, what's in your pipeline, they're asking what deals or opportunities you're currently working on.
What about leverage? That's another popular one.
To leverage means to use something to your advantage, like, we should leverage our customer data, means we should use our data to get a competitive advantage or to improve our business.
How about deep dive? That sounds similar to drill down.
It's very similar. A deep dive is an in-depth analysis or examination of something. Like, let's do a deep dive into these numbers, means let's analyze them thoroughly.
What does bandwidth mean in a business context?
In business, bandwidth often refers to capacity or availability. If someone says, I don't have the bandwidth for that project, they mean they don't have the time or capacity to take on more work.
What about on the same page? That's a very common phrase.
On the same page means everyone has the same understanding or agrees on something. Like, let's make sure we're all on the same page before we proceed. Means, let's make sure everyone understands and agrees.
And finally, what does move the needle mean?
Move the needle means to make a noticeable difference or impact. Like, this change will really move the needle means it'll have a significant, measurable effect.
Wow, Anna, we've covered so many great phrases today. Our listeners are going to be data vocabulary experts in no time.
I know. And the best way to learn is to actually use these phrases in your own conversations. Don't be afraid to try them out.
All right, everyone, it's time for our reflection questions. These are questions for you to think about after the episode. Why don't you pause for a moment and consider your answers?
Yes, grab a pen and paper if you'd like. These questions will help you apply what we've learned today.
First question. Think about your own workplace. What are some data-related terms or jargon that you often hear but don't fully understand? Maybe now is the time to look them up or ask a colleague.
Question 2. Can you think of a time when someone presented data to you in a confusing or overwhelming way? What could they have done differently to make it clearer?
Question 3. Consider your own role. What are some ways you could use data more effectively in your job? Is there information you have access to but aren't currently using?
Question 4. Think about a decision you need to make soon. What data could you collect or analyze to help inform that decision? What would you need to measure?
Question 5. Have you ever confused correlation with causation? Like assumed one thing caused another when they were just correlated. What was the situation?
Question 6. Who in your organization could you go to for help with data questions? Is there someone on your team who's good at explaining technical concepts in simple terms?
Question 7. Think about your last meeting where data was presented. Were there any visualizations or charts that were confusing or hard to understand? What would have made them better?
Question 8. What one phrase or concept from today's episode are you most excited to use? How will you use it in your next conversation?
Question 9. If you had to explain predictive analytics to a friend who knows nothing about data, how would you describe it in your own words? Try it right now.
And finally, question 10. What other topics would you like us to cover in future episodes? We love hearing from our listeners and learning what will be most helpful for you.
Those are all our reflection questions for today. Take your time with them. The best learners are those who actively think about how to apply what they've learned.
Well, everyone, we've come to the end of another episode. Can you believe how much we covered today?
I know. We talked about data literacy, predictive analytics, correlation versus causation, technical jargon, how to present data to non-technical audiences, and so much vocabulary.
You know, Jack, I think the most important takeaway from today is that data literacy isn't about being technical or knowing to code. It's about understanding the concepts enough to ask the right questions and communicate effectively.
Exactly. And that's a skill that anyone can develop. You don't need a degree in statistics. You just need curiosity, practice, and the right vocabulary.
That's so true. And remember, it's always okay to ask questions. If someone uses a term you don't understand, ask them to explain. That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of someone who wants to learn.
And we hope today's episode gave you the confidence to do exactly that. Now you know what predictive analytics means, what correlation versus causation is, and you have a whole new vocabulary of business phrases to use.
Yes, you're basically data literacy experts now.
Before we go, a huge thank you to all our listeners. You're the best. We love having you here with us every single day.
And please don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with anyone who might find it helpful. The more, the merrier.
Absolutely. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like us to cover in future episodes, please reach out. We're here for you.
Yes, we hope you feel more confident now when you encounter data terms in your English language meetings, reports, and conversations. Knowledge is power.
Thanks so much for listening, everyone. We'll see you next time on the English Daily Podcast.
Bye for now, English learners. Take care.
See you next time.
Your learning journey doesn't stop here. Keep improving your English. Click the next video or explore more episodes we've picked just for you. See you in the next lesson.